And then we're going to work on the truck. Okay, you can help me work on the truck? Okay, okay. Not my slippers. Not my... No, leave that. Come on. That'll hurt your teeth. That's your sport collar. Don't want to hurt your chompers. Okay, that's a good boy. Poor Kong ball. Hi everyone. Him and I, are out here okay. Hey. Okay, so today, you can probably tell what's coming up. Oil change. Whoop, you're hooked in the bumper, buddy. Hold on, I don't want you to rip my bumper off, because I know you could do it. So, the last, let me tell you about a little scare I had. If you've been around, you know I was working on my house battery installation for, a number of weeks. And during that whole time, I had the truck turned around from the way it's sitting right now. And I know you can't tell in the camera, but the driveway is slanted. It's sloped down. So it was sitting with the nose at the bottom end of the slope for about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, with the crank batteries disconnected. They were fully charged before I disconnected them. I actually put a battery charger on them and charged them up before I disconnected them. And then it sat for, like I said, 5 or 6 weeks until I got my secondary battery system hooked up. And then once I got that hooked up, reconnected the crank batteries, everything back online, all is good. So I come out here 2 days ago and I started the truck. And this is the first time I started it since getting everything back together. And it cranked like very fast because the batteries are fully charged. Cranked over, plus it's warm out, the oil is warm. It cranked over, but it didn't start when it normally would start. I've had this truck 4.5 years, and its characteristics, like its running and its starting characteristics, they haven't changed from day one. It's been exactly the same. I know exactly how long it takes to crank before it starts. And this time, it cranked considerably longer, and especially being a fast crank. Normally when it's a fast crank, like if we're driving and we pull in and get fuel or whatever, and shut the truck off and then restart it, the batteries are hey! Do not carry that away. Look at this. You gotta leave that alone. Left. You want me to come sit over here and talk? That's fine. I can do that. Come here. So when the engine cranks fast, like I said, if we're driving and the oil's all warm and the batteries are topped up and it cranks fast, it typically starts even faster when it's got faster RPM on the crank. So this time it's cranking nice and fast, and it didn't start when it normally would. It took considerably longer of a crank to start, and I'm like, okay, it hasn't run in many weeks, not a big deal. So I come out the next day and I crank it to start it, and I crank till I finally stopped cranking, and it didn't start. So I did it a second time, both times waiting for the glow plugs to fire. I cranked it a second time, and it started. And so this time I closed everything up and I took it for a drive. This is yesterday, because now I'm concerned. Like, the truck has never, in its entire life of me owning it, it has never taken that long to start. It always starts on the first crank. So now I'm concerned, right? Because like I said in the last video, the truck, mechanically I haven't done anything to it, after I did the fan clutch. That's the last thing I did mechanically, and that doesn't affect the runnability. Plus I drove it to Connecticut after that and back, and then since then haven't really done anything to it. So I'm thinking, what could be causing this? The truck's sitting for a prolonged period of time. Okay, the injectors need to get cleaned, just to put it in layman's terms, get firing again. So I went and drove it yesterday. When I started it, I went and drove it, and I drove for about 7 miles, just around, got it right up in the operating temperature range, and came back, shut it off, sat there a couple minutes, cranked it, started right up. But now, this is twice that it didn't start on the first crank. So this morning, today I wanted to do the oil change. Kind of stressed about this, like, why isn't it starting like it normally would? So I get in it this morning and I turn the key and it and it starts. And so I don't know a lot about, when the crank batteries are disconnected, obviously the computer, the ECU loses power. I don't know on this engine, an O2 diesel, does it have to go through a drive cycle to relearn? I don't know, but it's just never ever done that before where it cranked that long and didn't start. So I'm going to do the oil change, and then we're going to go for a drive and run it for longer than 7 miles and get it nice and warm, and I hope that's the end of the issues. I also am going to pick up some Standine fuel injector cleaner for the diesel and dump it in the fuel tank. That stuff works really well. I am sticking with the Rotella T4 15W40. I'm never going to run the thinner oil in that engine again. My engine likes this oil. I was able to find the FL 1995. If you don't know, Motorcraft has updated this and it now has an A on the end of it, FL 1995A. It is not the same filter. It's totally different. I've read stories on one of the truck forums that I visit quite frequently, because I was looking around for information on the A version, and guys said that they put it in and started having oil pressure issues with their truck that they'd never had before. And then one guy had one of each side by side, and he showed the difference. They're actually a different height, and he showed looking inside of it, and they are totally different filters. I read more than one story of guys just doing a regular oil change and swapping to that A filter and having all of a sudden issues with their rig, and I am not going to go through that. So on Rock Auto, I was able to find this. They had both of them listed, this version and then the version with the A on the end. And so I ordered this. I said, let me give it a shot. And sure enough, it showed up, and it is a real one. My backup plan was this Wix filter. Wix are supposed to be good. I think they're the same as the Napa. So this one was just in case I couldn't find a 1995, because eventually the old stock of these is going to disappear and there's not going to be any more. Alright, now we've got to pre-fill the oil filter. Make sure you always do this. About exactly 1.5 quarts. Okay, all set. Time to fill her up. I typically put in 14 quarts and then I run it. Okay, that's 14 quarts. Stay right here. So I'm working on the block heater. He's checking it out. So I did buy last year. This is a Ford block heater. See? Okay. So I just got up under there. It's right above the oil filter. Really easy to get to. And I popped off the existing cable. If you remember, my cable had rubbed up against, I think it was the power steering pulley, and had shredded the cable. So I'm guessing that's what happened years ago, and they tried plugging it in and they got some sparks and such, and so that was the last time they probably used the block heater. What I'm going to do before I take the block heater out, I'm going to test it, because the block heater may be fine. So you take your multimeter and you put it on ohms and you touch to the 2 pins and you should see 15 ohms of resistance. So let's test this new one while we've got it out here just for giggles. Yeah, it says between 15 and 20 is what you should get. Just trying to get them on here. Ah! Come on, David. 14.5. So this is a brand new one, so I'm going to say that that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up under the truck and I'm going to do this same test on the one that's in there and see what reading I get. And if it reads good, I don't need to replace it. And here's why I mean, replacing it, it's not difficult. Just get a wrench on there and crack it loose. But it's in the water jacket of the engine, and I'm going to have coolant come out if I crack that thing out of there. How much? I don't know. One of you in the comments said that it's not a lot. So I'm going to crawl up under there and we're going to test that existing block heater and see what kind of reading we get. Well, I'm getting 0, which means there's no connection, which that would mean that somehow that loop is broken. Why couldn't it have been easy? Just replace the cord. Okay, so doing some reading about replacing these. Even if you drain the radiator, the block is still going to be full of coolant. You're still going to get coolant spilling out when you take the thing out. What I've got to do is get up under there. It's 1 1/8 inches. I don't have 1 1/8 inches. I have 1 1/16 inches socket. So I'm going to try these that one of you sent me last year, I believe. Because it shouldn't be in there super tight. And hopefully I can crack it loose. Then what I'm going to do is spin it out and stick the new one in there. That way. Stick it in there as fast as I can. But I am going to chug some coolant out. There's no way around it. I've got my drain pan. I've got my light under there. Got to get this in my hand. Get that thing cracked loose, and hopefully I can do it fast enough. But I am going to have some spillage, so I hope I can catch it all in the pan. Okay, that's the block heater right there. So it's going to shoot coolant And this is electronics over here. There's like a junction box. Maybe I'll just get some plastic or put it over top of this here so when it shoots out, it doesn't saturate that electronics plug. Let me see what I can figure out. Okay. There we go. All right, let me get the pliers and the new block heater. Let's do this. Right about there. Oh, shit. That's tight. Oh, there we go. All right, cracked it loose. Okay. Feels pretty loose. Oh, it feels so loose. Here we go. See, I don't want to have the pliers up in here when it decides to pop out. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Look at that. All right. That wasn't bad at all. I did get some up my arm, and I got some of it in the drain pan. I'd really like to know why this one's not working. Okay. Let's get this tightened back up. Oops, I'm turning it the wrong way. So this doesn't need to be like super torqued. Yeah, that wasn't so bad. Actually, the guy whose video I watched, he had a lot more come out. He stuck the new one in and then it popped back out before he got it threaded, so I got lucky. Yeah, I'm not trying to over torque this. It has sealant on the threads that it came with. See, I feel like that's enough. I don't want to overdo it. Okay. See, that thread sealant is kind of spooging out, which is good. I don't know how much torque to put on this. Oh, I think that's enough. That's pretty tight. Well, I'll find out when I run it through a heat cycle and we'll check for leaks. So I think that's good. Alright, let's test this one now that we've got it out here. Yeah, I'm still getting 0. Something's wrong with this one, for sure. Now my next decision is running this cable. Where do I want to route this cable? Obviously, I don't want it to go where the other one was because it was right next to that pulley. I'm just putting some wire loom over this, give it a little bit more protection, and then we're going to figure out where exactly I'm going to route it. This wire loom is the only size I have left, and it just fits over this. So it's taken me a little while to get it on here. Looks like I'm just a little bit too long down here. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we've got wire loom on the whole thing now. So I've got the cable routed right up under the hood. So this tab, you fold it over, it grounds against the inside of there, and then you just got this little spin nut on here. Line up the pins. I don't really think it matters which goes to which. It's just a loop. There it is. Left. It's pawing at my feet. And then this just threads it on there to hold it. in place. Okay, so that holds it in there. That's it. Now I'm gonna get some zip ties. It would be great if I could get it to come out through the grill, but... Okay, I've got the cable on. I routed it along where some other cables run and just did some loose zip ties just to keep it over away from the exhaust manifold. I mean, there's a bunch of other wire looms running right along this same path. So they've lasted, so this should last also. So that wasn't a bad job at all. I will hose off the driveway because we did get a little bit of spillage right there. So up here, if you can see it, it's the shiniest black loom. There's a lot of stuff going on down in here, but it's zip tied. So it's about 6 inches from that pulley that devastated the last one. So I don't have any concern over that happening. This is it right here, this wire loom. And then it comes up here, and then underneath the power steering reservoir. And I found a hole where some air conditioning lines come through. Little notch in the plastic shroud, and I was able to fit it through there. So we've got plenty of length out here. Kind of just zip tie it like that for now, just to hold it in place. All right, let me finish this up and then I can get cleaned up. It was a good morning of work. Oil change, block heater change. I'll feel satisfied once I'm cleaned up. I hope you all enjoyed watching me huff and puff out here. Everybody take care. Be safe. We'll see y'all again really soon.